In a world covered by endless night, in a place where fear and despair thrive, in a time when all hope seems lost, two individuals arise to stand firm, resist the darkness, and light the beacons of hope to humanity. To the free people of the future, the courage of these two will mark them as heroes. To everyone else, they will simply be known as Nobodies.
Hello YouTube, thanks for tuning in to Nobodies. Two Nobodies talking about nothing, issues that you don't care about. And I'm Dave, this is Brian.
Hello everyone.
And the topic today is drugs.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Okay.
Assuming that's true, and for the most part I will agree it is, even though there's exceptions to that, but we'll get to that later. Just having laws that make drugs illegal, I just think on the principle of that is wrong for like restraining adults to what they can and cannot do. I mean, I don't want to go too off topic here, but I even think like having a law that says unless you're 21 you can't drink is stupid. If you're 18, you're an adult, a legal adult, you can vote, you can die for your country, but God forbid you drink a little bit of alcohol. And on that, so stepping onto that, it isn't too far reach to go over there to take one step further and say, well, now you can't smoke marijuana at all. Not condoning the behavior of smoking marijuana at all for, for the pleasure of it. But if you're an adult, shouldn't you have the right to make that decision for your own self if it only affects you and nobody else?
Yeah, and I think, kind of like you said, I mean, over in Europe, the drinking age is a lot lower, and they actually don't have the problems that we have here with teen drinking and kids getting all crazy. It's because they've grown up with it, and it's like when you outlaw something, you typically get more of that. And, I mean, for perfect example is Prohibition.
Yeah.
In the 20s, I mean, classic example. When you ban something, people are just going to do it anyway. And it's crime. You get crime. And people die, and it's just like, I mean, like the drug war right now. How many people have died? I mean, people getting beheaded, tortured, raped. I mean, all kinds of just nasty stuff with these cartels, and even these street gangs. I mean, in Los Angeles, just down the road, how many people have died, lost their lives because there's a law that says you can't light up a joint, And I think drugs are bad. I wouldn't smoke them or do them or whatever, but I'd rather not have people die because
the unintended consequences are a lot worse. Because people that want to do that are going to do that anyway, and you create a black market for that, and the consequences of a black market speak for themselves. Like just going on to the drug cartels, the horrible things that these people do, all the murdering and the extortion and everything, and the only reason they have this power is because these things are illegal. If they were legal, these people wouldn't have power to do any of this stuff whatsoever because no one would be giving them money. And that's the crux of the issue, is the fact that no matter what good your intentions are, we have to look at the reality of the situation, and the reality of the situation is too many people are getting hurt by this.
I don't know, like, I really think this is a classic example of the road to good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And it's just like, the government's job is not to be your nanny. It's not to say what chemicals you can or can't put in your body. This just spiraled out of control. I mean, budgets. You look at all these the money that's involved with enforcing drugs. And I mean, just the raids that they do. How many like wrong houses that they hit? It's insane.
And just some of the tactics they do. I mean, I'm not one to like bash police, but some of the things that they do is just so bad. For something that's trivial as drugs. I mean, I think the classic example, and I just can't forget this when I, read the article, of a baby getting flashbanged because of a no-knock SWAT raid.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete accident. Of course they didn't mean to flashbang the baby, but the point remains, they go in, full force for drugs. I mean, seriously, just think objectively speaking what a drug is, all right? If the drug is bad, okay, assuming that's true, you're only hurting yourself with that. And so in order to protect you from yourself, you're going to do things like this? I mean, it's just way too much. And I know there's a lot of people talking about on us including that we made an episode about national debt being so high. One of the things being, help increasing that is, the increase of trying to enforce these drug laws. That is a big chunk of what's going on. I mean, if you want to talk about cutting the budget, we can start right there.
Well, you know what's funny, and if you read your American history, the colonists, the British would come into their houses and look for smuggled goods. They'd look for smuggled tea and stuff that didn't have the proper crown stamp or whatever. And it really, really pissed the colonists off. And that's specifically why they came up with the Fourth Amendment. I think it's the Fourth Amendment. This is embarrassing. The one
Search and seizure?
Search and seizures.
Yeah, it's Fourth Amendment.
Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure. No, but they would go into their house, they would break into their houses basically, and look for that kind of contraband. And it's like, haven't we come full circle? I mean, am I the only one that sees this? That the British they invaded people's homes looking for contraband, and look at what you have now.
Yeah.
I mean, you have police breaking into homes in the middle of the night, and 2 a.m. At least the British had the courtesy of coming during daylight hours. It's like, what happened? That's what our country was founded on.
Yeah.
Is the fact that your home is safe, but it's not anymore. So, I mean, that bothers me, especially, since I have a toddler. So when you talk about flashbanging babies' faces, I get mad. I get very, very mad. So.
And these aren't like isolated incidents. Well, yes, they are. I mean, like,
It happens
statistically
a lot,
speaking,
though.
yes, it happens a lot. These aren't like necessarily anecdotal. It happens way too often. I mean, you could go. I mean, I go on like a drug report almost every day. There's always a story about something like this going on. It happens way too often, and I know you want people who want to defend this want to throw out statistics that statistically speaking, these bad incidents don't happen, but enough do. And for something again as trivial as this, and I guess to go off on a tangent, I want to say like how sometimes these things can be beneficial. I'm going to go on medical marijuana. I remember reading an article a while ago about this little girl who had like seizures or something.
Seizures. Yep.
Yeah, and so like
She was gonna die. All right,
Yeah.
straight up, she was gonna die.
they tried every other medication in the book and nothing was working. But they tried a derivative medical marijuana that was super low in THC and that was helped to suppress her seizures. And now she's perfectly fine. That was like the only thing that would have worked. So there are some applications to these things for medical purposes that I don't think people are a little close-minded when they say drugs are bad and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, I mean, they can be good, but I think when you boil the argument down to its core, in general, drugs are bad. I mean, like
Yeah.
you said, we have medical marijuana. They can have good purposes, but mostly they're being used for not good purposes. People just get high. However, like I said, when you boil it down, cigarettes are bad for you, alcohol's bad for you, driving is bad for you. Should we ban all those things? I mean, it's ridiculous. The argument's ridiculous. You can't just ban things just because they're bad for you. I mean, you should be educated, but I think that's a community thing. We as the town or like my family, I'm gonna tell everybody I know, hey, drugs are bad. Or if one of my friends says I got a drug problem, of course I'm gonna help him out. But it's not making a law and kicking down doors in the middle of the night. It's telling people that drugs are bad and you shouldn't do them.
A classic example I think that we can make an analogy for is cigarettes. I mean, I think we can say that cigarette use has tremendously spiked down than what it was like 50 years ago.
Yeah, I saw a map and it showed the number of cigarette users in each state, and it started at like 1940 and it went from like red to green because like nobody smokes anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
because we have a bunch, everyone's educated now on the harmful effects of smoking, so now it's gone away. That's a lot more effective than having laws that try to make it, you see, you have this little bad boy image of when things are illegal, if someone get their hand on it, they feel cool about doing that, and that sort of piggybacks on like what you were saying, as soon as people hit 21, oh my god, and then you start drinking now.
yeah.
And so when you have some things that are taboo, that helps give it a reputation that people you don't want messing with this stuff to begin with are going to get it. So if you help remove that taboo and try to make it more of a cultural taboo, that is actually more effective than having it based on a legal standpoint.
It can be. I mean, I could see that. There's always going to be people that fall through the cracks, but I'd much prefer that than to kicking down doors at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, Portugal decriminalized like every single drug, and their drug use has gone down because they're using more of rehabilitation than actual, throwing people in jail because think about it. If you have an actual drug problem, is getting thrown in jail really going to solve that?
No, of course not. And I mean, piggybacking off the cigarette analogy, you know, somebody in my family smokes, and it's, you know, he's always saying, well, I gotta quit. You know, and you never hear that from, like, a drug user, at least I don't. And, like, they know it's bad, and a lot of times they make efforts to get off of it, because they know it's bad. Versus drugs, I've never heard a druggie, not personally, I mean, you know, you see it on shows and stuff, like, I gotta get clean, but normally they just want to get high, you know, and like, yeah, education. They just need some support. They don't need you to throw them in jail. So, yeah. It is what it is, man.
So, yeah.
Any concluding remarks as we wrap this thing up? Drugs are bad?
Yeah, drugs are bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean making it legal is going to solve the problem. There are smarter solutions to it, and I really think that the unintended consequences of the whole thing just completely outweigh the negative consequences of what these drugs actually do. And just based on the principle of the matter, then again, we're adults, we should be able to make these decisions for ourselves, even if they are terrible for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that, same thing with the marriage, you know, like, I don't believe that government should make laws for marriage and everything, you know, like that one last show we did or whatever, but, you know, it's the same thing. Government doesn't need to stick its nose where it doesn't belong. We're all adults here.
Yep.
So. Yep.
Alright, so I guess that's going to conclude this day's episode about drugs. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz, I guess, even though no one's watching this.
Hey, we are going to get so many views, it's going to be ridiculous. YouTube is going to explode.
With a show of nobodies.
With nobodies. Alright.
Alright, thanks for watching if you did. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in. Later.